The Shark Deck.
Hello, I'm Johnny Mac with your daily comedy news. Heavy stuff for 30 seconds here. Jerry Seinfeld on Instagram. I lived and worked on a kibbutz in Israel when I was 16, and I've loved our Jewish homeland ever since. Jerry shared this with his 1.3 million Instagram followers. There was a picture of a woman wrapped in an Israeli flag with the caption, "I stand with Israel." On the late night show, Stephen Colbert said his writers didn't even attempt to write jokes about this. Stephen said the human mind simply refuses to do it. Even AI refused to do it. Seth Meyers kept things serious but vague, says the New York Times. Seth said, "I will only say in the moments when we are confronted with such evil, inhumane acts, we are most at risk of losing our own humanity." All right, on to the fun stuff. Tom Segura, weird Twitter rant. Last week, Tom Segura writes, cracked, had to fly on a commercial airliner. However, Tom was upset when an American Airlines worker apparently insulted him by asking him to gate check his carry-on bag for no charge. Segura on Twitter wrote, "Dumb C-word from American Air made me gate check my bag so she feels the little power she has in her life. I get it. You win this round, C-word." Weird, right? So they checked your bag. All right, it happens. I mean, I like carrying on too, Tom, but like, really? Go after this on social? Tom continued, wrote, "All the poors and losers have the same response. Oh, you were inconvenienced. Well, you should accept it. That's what me and my dumb poor family have done for generations. This is why you're a poor." The lowest level poors get upset, as they've been trained to do, when you point out that they're happy to do what I'm told, servant mentality. They don't value time because their time is worthless. You are specks of S-word on a washcloth, and washcloths belong in the trash. A user named Patrick responded to @Tom Segura and wrote, "Is calling a service worker a C-word for doing her job? Like, you think she had options? You've lost touch." Segura responded to that and wrote, "Poor," and pointed down towards the message. Segura wrote, "This is a psychological tactic that well-trained people across all businesses use because it's effective. They empathize with the customer's emotion. Typically, people feel seen and heard and immediately calm down after this acknowledgement. I still wish awful things on Gate Agent." Weird. American Airlines responded to that one and said, "We know you're no rookie, Tom, and you know how to pack a bag. We're sorry for the hassle today." Cracked seems to be on Team American Airlines. They point out Segura, whose late father was a first vice president of Merrill Lynch. I guess the suggestion there is that Tom comes from some money. Segura has long been alienating fans with his indulgently elitist comments, and many disillusioned former followers have taken to online forums to discuss how the latest pathetic entitled meltdown was the straw that broke the Nepo baby's back. One user wrote in the Joe Rogan subreddit, "Recently, it's been hard to tell where the joke begins and ends with him. He's becoming the person he used to make fun of when he was actually funny." Another former fan wrote, "This is why I stopped listening to YMH and consuming Tom's content. He's been such a stuck-up little B-word for like the last 2 years that it's ruined the funny. He literally thinks he's the Ubermensch or something because Rogan put him on and suddenly he's all about the bootstraps life, even though his dad was an effing hedge fund manager and Tom never actually had to work a job ever. There was a months-long run of Tom just saying stuff like he's so smart and talented and hardworking and rich and better than everyone else that it went beyond razzing, and I actually believe he thinks that way." Another stated, "Somebody lacks empathy, and it's not Garth Brooks." That's fun. Let's keep an eye on that. Will Ferrell attended Parents' Weekend at USC. His son goes there, and ahead of the football game, Will Ferrell showed up at a party, a frat party, and Will started DJing. George Wallace told WTOP, "A lot of people don't know that I was the real George Costanza." I was like, "What?" George Wallace explained, "I'm the one that was Jerry Seinfeld's roommate for 13 years. I'm the one that was the best man at his wedding. I'm the one that was the godfather of his children, best friends for 47 years. I found Seinfeld a catch a rising star. He was a little Jewish boy at the end of the bar, and I was a little black boy. It was only me and him." George Wallace appears in one episode of Seinfeld. He plays a doctor distracted by the Eagles song "Witchy Woman." George explained that scene came by because when his own son was circumcised, they call it a bris, I was holding one leg and Jerry was holding the other. The rabbi went zip and circumcised the baby, and the baby went crazy. To this day, when I walk into the Seinfeld house, that boy always looks at me like, "I know you're from somewhere." That's a good joke. George Wallace will star in a sitcom called Clean Slate for Amazon's Freevee. He says, "I wanted to reboot Sanford and Son, so I went to Norman Lear. Basically, I just wanted to hear the theme song. The basis of the show is that I'm an old black man living in Alabama. My son left the house after high school and went to New York City to do his thing. 27 years later, a beautiful lady's at my door and says, 'Dad, it's me.' My daughter is played by Laverne Cox. It's going to be a great show." Lewis Black spoke to the Las Vegas Review-Journal, and he said, I'm glad I'm able to do this interview because I was dealing with my fantasy football team. I have 3 teams now, which is the perfect distraction from the BS things going on right now and the rest of the noise we're dealing with. Johnny Katz was the interviewer, and Johnny Katz was curious, hey, did you have Aaron Rodgers on any of your teams? Lewis Black said, no, I wouldn't have anyone on any of my teams who enters into a cave to experience sensory deprivation while possibly on drugs. I have no faith in such a person. They started talking about gambling, and Lewis said, oh yeah, I think gambling and fantasy football go hand in hand. In fact, I used to go to the sports books in Vegas on a regular basis. I like to bet these massive parlays that can't possibly win. I'd pick 3 that I think can absolutely cover, and those would be the first 3 that get screwed on. Lewis commented on all the construction in Vegas. I remember when I was out there a year ago compared to 10 years prior, the city was just bigger. Like, I was like, oh, it used to end here, and now look, it ends there. They were discussing T-Mobile Arena, and Lewis said, the first thing I noticed, I didn't realize you could put more crap on the strip. I mean, it's astonishing. I didn't even know there was space there for an arena. You got to realize I spent a lot of time out there when Catch a Rising Star was at Bally's, then at the Trop and MGM Grand. I'm watching them build, and I'm like, how much more can you build? And then they built Area 15 in Vegas, and I thought, well, now you're building a city inside the city. How much more can you handle? We used to drive around behind the strip to avoid stuff and get to places faster. Now there's stuff everywhere. There's a whole new realm for me driving on the strip. To avoid stuff, you need to use the parking lots. You don't even drive on the street. Vice has a series called The Dark Side of Comedy. There's a new episode about Robin Williams, and according to Robin's friend Alan Steffen, Robin wasn't able to take the stage without snorting cocaine. Steffen remembered one story where Robin said, know anybody with any blow? I have to go on. I can't go on without any blow. As Steffen tells the story, I sat down. I said, I'm going to help you. Robin said, do you have any blow on you? I said, no. Are you out of your effing mind? You're Robin Williams. Friend Mike Binder, fellow comic and filmmaker, said, one night we went to a place called Flipper's Discotheque in Hollywood, and I had like a gram of coke. Robin said, oh, let me take that. Do you mind if I hit that in the bathroom? He came back and it was empty. I was like, whoa. It was like 8:15 at night. And I was like, Robin, you did the whole gram. And he was like, it's an accident. I'm sorry. Mike Binder added, with drugs, Robin Williams was a monster. So it was honestly the slowest news day I could remember in quite some time. Especially it's not a holiday week or anything like that. To give you the stories that I just read you, I went down a list of like every comedian I could even think of, which is how I found the Lewis Black thing. So I actually went on Facebook to the Daily Comedy News Podcast group and I wrote, help, extremely slow news day. What would you like me to talk about? Here's a list. Dan Bublitz Jr., comedian and friend of the show, writes, 10K Laughs Festival is this week. Maggie Mayfield had a new special drop today. All right. The 10,000 Laughs Comedy Festival, returning for its 11th year, the 12th through the 14th. They write 10,000 Laughs as a comic-centered, artist-run stand-up comedy festival with heart, or what used to be a heart before we spent 11 years producing comedy festivals. 20-plus shows, nearly 80 comedians in Minnesota, and whoa, I recognize these comedians without even looking at their names. I know their faces. Beth Stelling, Aparna Nancherla, Chad Daniels, Dan Mitz, Kelsey Cook, Ian Finance, Daniel Van Kirk, Comrade Tripp, Sam Talent, Jordan Jensen. Those are some quality headliners. Let's take a look at the schedule. Thursday night, Jordan Jensen, the Power Trip Comedy Hour, Showcase, Daniel Van Kirk, and Being Ian with Jordan. I'll tell you who's playing the other nights, the other 2 nights. Thanks, Dan. That was a good one. And it looks like 11 hours ago, Maggie Mayfield dropped on her YouTube channel, Social Media is Fake, a musical comedy special. I will add that to the list of things to check out. Travis wrote, talk about how funny it is that the Dogecoin Burger King gave away in 2021 was worth 24 cents and is now worth 0.058 LOL. I'm not familiar with this. Wait, so I typed in Dogecoin Burger King and the first thing that comes up is Burger King crypto program? What? Frequently asked questions. How do I participate? Download the BK app, register to become a Perks member, make a purchase of $5 or more pre-tax. I'm skimming the rules. Wait for an email containing your cryptocurrency prize code. 5, open some accounts on a particular website. Can I participate without purchasing? Yes. There is an alternative method of entry. To use this method, please see the official rules, which can be found here. So working in radio for a long time, there are people called prize pigs. And the prize pigs enter every single contest that your radio station ever does. And you try to make, somebody other than the prize pigs win, because the prize pigs win a lot of stuff. I also learned when we were in satellite there's a rule called lottery, so you can't charge someone to enter something. So like I could right now give away the garbage can in my office. What I can't do is tell you, hey, everybody who sends in $1, I'll enter you in a raffle to win the garbage can. That is a lottery. So when we were at Sirius, to have Sirius, you have to pay to get Sirius. So if we only announced a contest on the air, you would have no way of knowing the contest existed unless you had Sirius, so it would stumble into lottery. So what you would do is you would put the rules up on a web page, and the web page available on the internet for free. Somebody could go to the public library and type in the URL and find the contest. That said, you don't have to make the rules that easy to find. So I clicked on the link. Here's the link: cdn.sanity.io/files/czqk2a/t/prod_bk_us/8EEC5618B. And there's another 30 characters. You get the idea. So this all ended back in 2021, so you missed it. But thank you, Travis. That was nice. Yvonne wrote, please talk about comedy ticket prices. Last year, Jerry Seinfeld's front row ticket to Vancouver was around $100. This year, it shot up to $425 when I tried to get one. What's the deal with that? So I was curious. I went on Ticketmaster and typed in Seinfeld Gaffigan. They're playing San Francisco on November 2nd, and Ticketmaster has offered me a $50 ticket to sit in section 221. $50 to see those two headliners doesn't seem too bad. Let's see if we can get closer to the stage. If I want to sit here in row 2, well, that's going to cost you $1,500? No. Okay. Jerry Seinfeld is the best live comedian that I have seen. And Jim Gaffigan, definitely an A-lister. But $1,500 for one ticket to see them? Why don't you pay $50 and sit in the back? They're good. They're not that good. I don't even know what to say to a $1,500 ticket. Here's one in row, what row am I in? Row 9. That one's only $907. Yvonne, I'm with you. Those tickets are insane. I would not pay that much to see anybody. I've sworn off Springsteen. I think he got a little nutty. I got $90 tickets for Taylor Swift. Well worth it. Maybe I'm just cheap. Let's see what it'll cost us to get into Chappelle tonight. Chappelle's in Washington, D.C. tonight at 7 o'clock. Tickets are sold out. I'm going to go on the secondary market. So interesting, the Gaffigan and Seinfeld, there were a lot of tickets available, whereas Chappelle sold out. That's interesting. You would think Seinfeld and Gaffigan could sell out. Now, maybe not for $1,000, but those $50 tickets should be gone. All right, if you want to sit in section CL balcony, row V for Chappelle, you can get in 2 tickets, $266, so $130 and change. If you want to sit down low, $432 each to sit in the Orchestra C row U. Chappelle's fantastic. I don't know if I'm paying those prices either, but maybe I'm a comedy snob because I've seen a lot of shows. Keith wrote, SNL starting back up this week with Pete Davidson as host. Yeah, I actually Googled Pete to see if there was anything new yet. There was not as time of this recording, which is noon yesterday. Travis suggests I talk about Ralph Barbosa. He's actually in the second half. Mary asked if I've ever talked to or about Sugar Sammy. I don't think I've met Sugar Sammy. I know we were playing some of his stuff as a Canadian artist. There were advantages to programming some Canadian artists on the Canadian channels when we were back at Sirius, and I didn't run the Canadian comedy channels, but I knew those guys because we would obviously compare notes. So Sugar Sammy was on my radar, and I think Sugar Sammy was repped by the same guy as the Blue Collar guys were 15, 20 years ago, but never met him. And I've thrown in his name into Google. Doesn't seem to be any news for him. Thank you, guys. That was super helpful on a slow news day. Let me take the break, and I'll come back and do the normal stuff for the second half. Vulture did that list of the 25 comedians you should know. On their list, Ralph Barbosa. And they asked him his proudest achievement of his comedy career so far. His answer, getting to meet Adam Sandler. Man, imagine I ever meet Adam Sandler. That's going to be all kinds of awkward. Might have to duck and run the other way. I was close to Adam Sandler once. We were at the Super Bowl in Dallas, and the big boss was insistent we get Mr. Sandler on, and my assistant had to chase down Mr. Sandler and got him on the stage with Jamie for, 45 seconds. Sandler didn't want to do it. I don't know how my assistant pulled that off, but boy, that was unnecessary stress. Nobody wanted to do it. But we got our picture of Jamie Foxx and Adam Sandler. Hope you're happy there, old boss. All right, Ralph Barbosa, what have you learned about your own joke writing? Ralph said, I'm funnier when I'm not trying. Tell us about your worst show. He said, my second show that I ever booked was at the nastiest, raunchiest strip club in Euless, Texas. Strippers were mad that the comics were using the main stage. It was the money-making stage, but I had no money that night. The wireless mic kept cutting off, and most guys were facing the other way getting dances. One stripper named Bubbles screamed, keep going. Shout out to Bubbles. Vulture said, okay, let's say we live in a world where the kings of catchphrase comedy is a thing and every comedian has to have a catchphrase. His answer, this ass don't last. Because if you really think about it, no ass will really last unless it's an immortal ass. Sarah Tolomash will tape her new special tonight at Grove 34 in Astoria, New York. She has appeared on Comedy Central's Roast Battle and Gotham Comedy Live. When she's not touring comedy clubs around the country, she's a regular at the Comedy Cellar and New York Comedy Club. Her new special is called Voluptuous Boy on YouTube. She's the co-host of the popular weekly podcast Lady Journey. New special tonight, Grove 34. If you're in Queens, take a ride. And thanks to you guys, I have leftover stories now. There's some minor things. A Gen Z comedian getting into it with the millennials. I can save that for later in the week. But thank you so much, Facebook group. I should do that again. That was really good. Maybe I'll do that once a week or every other week. Really appreciate the random suggestions. And that is your comedy news for today. Feel really encouraged to join the Facebook group. It's called Daily Comedy News Podcast Group. And thank you all for listening, and I'll see you tomorrow.